Dear students, in this video, we are going to discuss one more antenna radiation parameters known as radiation pattern lobes. In this, we will discuss major lobe, minor lobe, side lobe, and back lobe. Now, we will discuss regarding radiation pattern lobes. So, what is meant by radiation pattern lobes? So, coming to the radiation pattern lobes, so the various parts of radiation pattern is referred to as radiation pattern lobes. So if you observe here, in this radiation pattern, we are having major lobe, and except this major lobe, all the remaining side lobes, all other lobes in all direction, we call it as minor lobes. We call it as minor lobes. So for example, so this is radiation pattern. This is expressed in polar plot. Okay, so this type of representation is called as polar plot. Okay, so if you observe here in this polar plot, this is your major lobe. Okay, so this is major lobe and remaining all lobes except this major lobe and remaining all lobes, we call it as minor lobes. And in this minor lobe, what is called as side in this minor lobes, except major lobe, remaining all lobes, we call it as minor lobes. And this, what is this side lobe? The lobe which is adjacent to the major lobe. The lobe which is adjacent to the major lobe, we call it as side lobe. Okay, let us take this is our major lobe. What is the lobe which is adjacent to the side major lobe? The lobe which is adjacent to the major lobe, this is one side lobe, and this is another side. Okay, so this is our first side lobe. This is our first side lobe. Okay, and other one is their back lobe. What is meant by back lobe? So the lobe which is 180 degrees opposite to the major lobe. The lobe which is 180 degrees opposite to the major lobe, we call it as back lobe. So for example, this is the major lobe. Let us consider this is in theta is equal to 0 degrees. So what is the exact opposite direction? This is theta is equal to 180 degrees. So the lobe which is exactly opposite to the major lobe, exactly opposite to the major lobe, we call it as back lobe. Okay, so in any radiation pattern, the different lobes present are major lobe and remaining all lobes except major lobe on remaining all lobes call it as minor lobes, and it is side lobes and back lobe. Okay. So, a major lobe, what is meant by the definition of the major lobe? So, the major lobe is defined as the major lobe is defined as a radiation lobe containing the direction of maximum radiation, containing the direction of maximum radiation. In this figure, let us consider this is theta is equal to 0 degrees direction. Here, the maximum radiation is at theta is equal to 0 degrees direction. This the maximum radiation is at theta is equal to 0 degrees radiation. Okay. So similarly, what is meant by the minor lobes? The minor lobe is any lobe except major lobe. The minor lobe is any lobe except this lobe and remaining all lobes. Okay. All lobes are called as minor lobes. Okay. So what is meant by side lobe? A side lobe which is adjacent to the major lobe. This is our major lobe. The lobe which is adjacent to the major lobe, it is called as side lobes. Okay, what is meant by back lobe? A back lobe is a radiation where the angle is approximately 180 degrees opposite to the major lobe. So this is our major lobe, and this lobe is exactly 180 degrees opposite to the major lobe. So this lobe is called as back lobe. Okay. So here, coming to the radiation pattern, coming to the radiation pattern, there are two types of radiation. Any radiation pattern can be represented in two types. Any radiation pattern can be represented in two types. So coming to the radiation pattern, the two types of representations of the radiation pattern are any radiation pattern any radiation pattern any radiation pattern can be represented in two plots. One is polar plot, and the other one is linear plot. One is polar plot, and the other one is linear plot. Polar plot means the direction will be like this. Polar plot means the radiation will be like this. This is our major lobe. Okay, and these are all our minor lobes. These are all our minor. What is meant the linear plot? Linear plot means like this. The linear plot is this is the major lobe, and remaining all are minor lobes. So this is the representation in polar plot. This is the representation in linear plot. Okay, in this plot or in this plot, these two are major lobes. These two are major lobes. Okay, so in here this is on the x-axis, it is theta. On the y-axis, the electrical field component is the y-axis. The electrical field component is normalized field strength. Here also, this is theta direction. Okay, so this is polar plot. Okay, so this is the linear plot representation. Okay, so this is linear plot. In this linear plot representation, this is major lobe. Okay, so this is major lobe. This is electrical field E. Okay, so here this is the major lobe, and remaining all these lobes and these lobes, we call it as minor lobes. What is side lobe? This is major lobe. The lobe which is adjacent to the this is the lobe which is adjacent to the major lobes. So these are first side lobes. Okay, and remaining are second side lobes. Okay, what is meant by back lobe? Here, so theta is equal to 0 and theta is equal to 90 degrees. Here, theta is equal to pi. Okay, so the lobe which is at theta is equal to 180 degrees. The theta is equal to 180 degrees. We call it as a back lobe. Okay, so what are the two types of representation of any radiation pattern? One is polar plot, one is polar plot. This is polar plot. Okay, so this is the polar plot representation. This is major lobe, and remaining these are all side lobes. Remaining all these are side lobes. Okay, so what is meant by the back lobe? The lobe which is exactly opposite to the major lobe. So this is 180 degrees opposite. It is called as side back lobe. Okay, so in this, there are two parameters called half power beamwidth and beamwidth between full null. Okay, we will discuss coming class. Thank you.